Hey guys, Brett Weiss here. Welcome to another video. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. If you like retro gaming, you definitely came to the right place. Talking about something a little difficult and complicated today, video game addiction. I have mixed feelings on this, as an addictive video game, a video game that's very addicting, is probably a pretty great game. You want a game to be so compelling that you want to keep playing it. That's just the mark of a game that's very entertaining and fun. Typically, it can also be a mark of a game that's got you by the throat and you can't let go. But anyway, I'm going to talk about this a little bit, video game addiction, whether I'm a video game addict or not, and that kind of thing. But what got me thinking about this was Dogma Debate podcast. This is a podcast I listen to pretty regularly. It's a skeptic podcast where this guy will talk about different issues, and he'll have guests on that believe certain things that he doesn't believe, typically from a religious point of view. And the person he had on this podcast claimed to be a sinless Christian, a Christian without sin. Now that's a topic for a whole nother show. I'm not going to cover that today. This isn't a religious episode. I'm not a religious person. That's not what I'm talking about. But I found this topic fascinating. I found this very interesting, what this guy had to say about how he used to be addicted to video games and how becoming a Christian, being born again, sort of turned him away from that. And he still says that video games, playing video games isn't a sin, but he had to stop based on what it was doing to his life. So on this podcast, Dogma Debate, number 681, I'll put a link in the description of this YouTube video. I'm going to just read this short anecdote of what he says about how he was addicted to video games, and then I will discuss video game addiction after that in a little more in-depth, just from a personal standpoint. So let's get to it. This sinless Christian who was on Dogma Debate Podcast 681 said, now he had two idols, video games and wanting a wife. Idols are something that are, from the Christian point of view, are things that take too much importance in your life over religious matters. So let's get to it. He says, I wanted a wife. That was my idol. And video games. It's not a sin to play a video game, but that's what I wanted more than I wanted the Lord. And so, when I got born again in 2022, this is sort of a heightened euphemism for getting baptized, it's when I made that hard decision and went all the way. If I never get a wife, I'll be fine. I need the Lord more than I need a wife. If I never play another video game again, I'll be fine. Now, he goes on to describe video game addiction with the host. This is all the guest that was on. Video game addiction is severe, he says. It's a hard nut to crack. For guys, at least, this modern culture, a video game can give you all you want. You can be an achiever. You can have respect. You can be a strategist. All these wonderful things that guys want to do. And in times past, we had to put our pants on and go out and do something. But now you can sit in your pajamas in front of a screen and get all those endorphins and dopamine and all that sort of thing. I was in bondage to video games my whole life. Now, he spoke about being so addicted and so consumed with video games that it ruled his life. That and the desire to get married, the desire to have a wife, that sort of overrode everything. And then when he discovered that, Christianity, or at least embraced Christianity and got born again or saved, however you want to put it, baptized, he changed completely, and he stopped playing video games because he realized that video games had taken over his life. Now, have video games taken over my life? It may seem like it on social media because I'm always posting about conventions and collecting and playing video games and stuff, but if you've watched my channel, if you've watched certain videos or just seen other posts by me on social media, you might realize that I have a very full life. That includes travel, playing sports, hiking, spending time with the wife and kids, going to see my mom and taking her to dinner, taking her shopping too, walking my dog, reading, going to and watching concerts on television. I love to fire up YouTube and just crank up concerts and all that kind of thing. it's just fun. So I have a wide variety of interests and more beyond that. Sometimes I think I have too many hobbies and too many interests because some will get put by the wayside. And I said, oh, I wish I had more time to do this, or I wish I had more time to do that. I get behind on movies I want to watch. I get behind on TV shows I want to watch. And sometimes I realize, hey, I haven't been to this place in 3 months and I really like this place. So perhaps I have too many interests. But anyway, it's a fun life. I really enjoy my life. And for me, video games, I feel like I have them in perspective. Even though I have this crazy game room with all this stuff, it doesn't really interfere with my happiness. It doesn't do anything to my budget negatively, as far as so much I'm always looking for bargains and I'm trading and buying and selling. So I sort of pay for my collection along the way with eBay and doing shows and stuff. And I feel like I have a nice balance for family time, social life, other hobbies. If you're a gamer, it's important to have other hobbies as well and not just be all about gaming. I think you may feel differently. Now, you can have hobbies that are gaming related that aren't specifically playing video games, and I think this is very good. I think collecting can be a very rewarding hobby. It's a lot of fun. You can meet fellow collectors. Going to conventions is a great hobby. Again, you can meet fellow collectors and socialize. You can... With gaming, you can also read about video games. You can write about video games. You can blog about video games. You can interact with other gamers. All great stuff. You can have gamers over to play games. Make it a social activity, a party. Awesome stuff. So there are ways to interact with games and them not be the sole priority of your life. Now, if gaming is mostly what you do when you're waking hours, that doesn't necessarily make you an addict. If it's not affecting your health, if it's not affecting your mental state in a negative degree, if you've got other interests, if you're getting exercise, if you're taking care of yourself, basically, if you're a solid citizen, if you're happy and healthy, if you're productive, you're probably doing fine. Now, I know a lot of people deal with isolation, with loneliness, with anxiety. Now, video games can actually help with all these things. Video games can give you a way, if you're bored or if you're lonely, they can give you a good outlet, ways to spend time. You can game with people online. You can meet people online. And, if you're really lonely, that can kind of help prevent that to a degree. Yeah, it's important to meet people in person and see people in the flesh and, have them over or go to their house or see them in public spaces. But, you can actually have some pretty meaningful dialogue while playing games, especially these first-person shooters. But all kinds of games where you can, get your headset on and communicate with people, and that can be rewarding. This is not a video to shame anyone that plays video games a lot. I obviously play them a lot. This is not a video to shame people who collect a lot of video games. Obviously, I do that as well. It's just sort of to open up a debate, or not really a debate, but just a conversation on video game addiction. Is it a real thing? Are you addicted? Am I addicted? Do you know anybody that's addicted to video games? Now, I did meet with a guy who, it's not a really friend of mine, just an acquaintance. We started talking about video games. He said he never plays video games. He only played one video game in his whole life. And if I recall it correctly, I believe it was one of the more modern Mortal Kombat games. And he said he got so consumed with this video game, all he cared about was making progress and achievements and all this stuff and being great at this game. It just completely took over his life. He was in his early 20s, and he realized immediately, he had never played a game before that, growing up or anything, just never played a video game. And yes, there are people that have never played a video game. But he started playing this game, and he said he just realized that it immediately took control of him. It immediately made him realize that this is all I can think about. This is all I want to do. And so he put it aside and decided that video games are not for him. And that certainly was a wise decision, it sounds like, in his case, because they were a problem. He immediately realized that. So basically, if video games aren't bringing you happiness, if they aren't a simple enjoyment in life, something that is fulfilling, if you play video games more out of a compulsion, more than something to enjoy, that could be a problem. Now, I know video games can be very compelling and addicting in a good sense of the word. If I sit down and say I've got a couple of hours of free time and I'm jonesing to play a video game, and if I play one that's not super engaging and I just set it aside and I play another one, that's not that great, and I play just a few different games and that are just kind of meh, okay, that's something. Maybe I had a little fun in those 2 hours. But if I get a game like Tetris and Dr. Mario here, both of those games are absolutely addicting, and I'm having so much fun, and the next 2 hours just melt away. Seem like, instead of 2 hours, seem like 2 minutes. You just get so absorbed with these games. That can be a very good, very healthy thing. So being addicted temporarily to games can be a fun, rewarding, and very enjoyable thing. But being addicted to video games to the point where they're really ruining relationships, causing you to miss payments on your car or your rent, causing you to affecting your work life or your relationships, if they just have a overall negative effect, or really hardcore addiction like to drugs or alcohol, it gets to the point where you're not drinking or doing drugs to have fun. You're doing it to keep the pain away, to extinguish pain. You're so consumed and so addicted to these chemicals that you consume them in higher and higher quantities to stop the pain. Now, video games don't quite have that grip over people. Chemical substance, I believe, is more addicting than things like video games. But, I do this video just to sort of open a conversation, not to proclaim myself as any kind of expert. I just wanted to open the topic. I would love you guys to comment on this subject. Again, I have mixed feelings on it because an addictive video game can be a super great and fun and rewarding thing, or the addiction to video games can be a very negative thing and disrupt your life. Video games can have a deleterious effect on your life, just like any other form of enjoyment. Hunting, fishing, gambling, going to casinos, watching sports. All this stuff can have, a negative effect if you neglect other aspects of your life. If it's, really bringing down other aspects of your life, or you feel yourself uneasy or a sense of where you're not content because you're just so obsessed with your hobby. Again, I love video games, and if you're a gamer, game on. I love it. Play the games you enjoy, collect the games you want to play, and the one that you want to just collect. If you're a shelf collector, that's cool. Some people criticize shelf collectors. Sometimes shelf collectors like to have a great collection on display and to look through them, and they only play a few titles. Nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, it's your choice. And like I said, if you're happy, healthy, productive, and a solid citizen, you're probably doing fine. It's not my position to judge you, the amount of, and this really doesn't have, I'm not saying, okay, you should only play 5 hours of video games a week, 10 hours of video games a week. If you're playing 20 hours of video games a week, that's too much or whatever. It's not about that. It's just about your state of mind, your happiness, how your relationships with others, your health, how video games fit into your life overall, whether you're addicted or just really, 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 really enjoy the hobby. Let me know in the comments what you think about video game addiction. Have you ever been addicted to a particular video game or to the hobby overall? Was that a positive or a negative? Like I said, I love being addicted to a particular game. A new game comes out, or I get an old game I'd never played before, and I'm like, holy cow, this is great. I'm having so much fun. Play it 2 or 3 hours, but then I go out and take a walk, ride a bike, whatever. Let me know in the comments what you think about video game addiction and what you think about this topic on this. Should I cover topics like this more often? Something a little more serious? Anyway, again, this is not a religious or a political thing. This is just about addiction, video game addiction, and either to a specific game or in general, and whether that's affected you positively or negatively. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Not editing this today, not gonna bother my editor. Just wanted to get this out there. Thank you so much for liking, subscribing, and doing all that great stuff. And thank you so much for commenting. Would love to hear from you guys. We will talk to you in another video. Thanks for watching.